I'm Dr. Samuel Acuff, a research scientist at the Recovery Research Institute in the Department of Psychiatry at Massachusetts General Hospital. I'm here today talking with Dr. Alex Russell, who is a research scientist at the Recovery Research Institute and an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. How's it going, Dr. Russell?
Going well, thanks for asking.
I want to talk to you today about social media in recovery, an important topic, and social media has become ubiquitous in our everyday lives. And for people in recovery, I think might have, pose both risks and benefits. I wonder if we can start with the risks. What are some of the risks associated with social media for people in recovery?
Yeah, well, we know that there is a lot of substance use content on social media platforms, and that a lot of this content is very pro-substance use. Glamorizes substance use even. So think of drinking, partying content, and other substances as well. When we think about someone who is seeking or in early recovery, it's very likely they've engaged with heavier substance use behaviors themselves. And if they've been using social media during this time, it's likely they've posted about and engaged with this type of content as well. And so we also know social media platforms are algorithm driven and that they learn about a user's behavior, what they like to post about, what they engage with, and they expose them to more and more of this content over time. So for someone who has been posting about engaging in this type of content, maybe engaged in heavier substance use behaviors and has made an abrupt decision to sort of, change those behaviors, to quit or cut down on their substance use, well, the algorithms might not necessarily recognize this, right? And so for someone who is, in early recovery, this could mean that they're continually exposed to this pro-substance use content that they once had posted about, engaged with, but no longer would want to be exposed to, as it could be a trigger to them early in the recovery.
Yeah, that makes sense. And sounds like there are definitely some risks in terms of just being, repeatedly exposed, maybe also to friends who they, used to be associated with substance use. What about some of the benefits?
Yeah. So we also know that, many people are using social media as a form of, online social support during the recovery attempts. For example, we have there's been, studies showing that there are opioid recovery communities on platforms like Reddit or TikTok or Facebook, where people are, sharing their recovery journeys. They're posting about or celebrating milestones, maybe a number of days or years on sobriety. They're providing encouragement and support to one another. And so for some individuals, it can be a very helpful form of online social support.
So with all this in mind, how would you recommend someone who's in recovery navigating the social media space?
Well, there are a couple options people could think about. The first might be to, delete or temporarily suspend your social media accounts early in recovery, to focus on building in-person recovery supports and to minimize or really get rid of that risk of being exposed to potentially triggering people, places, and things on social media. If you're set on incorporating social media as a part of your early recovery. You mentioned one thing you can do, earlier on in this discussion, where you could remove or block accounts that you might have engaged with in the past, but that might expose you to potentially triggering content. Another thing you can do is specifically try to join communities that will support your recovery efforts. So I mentioned there are opioid recovery communities on platforms like Reddit. So those are a couple of things you can do. But just know that at the end of the day, you will not have complete control over what you're exposed to on these platforms. And so if you are using them, you do run that risk of being exposed to potentially triggering content in your early recovery. And so it's just another thing to be mindful of.
Yeah. Really helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.